The enormous central chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as emergency protocol alerts flashed across every screen. Council members from over 200 species shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Intelligence Director Vorn, a tall blue-skinned being with 4 arms, stepped to the central podium. The Dracon Empire has launched an unauthorized attack against the quarantined world designated as Earth, Vorn announced, his voice echoing through the chamber. Murmurs erupted throughout the room. Earth was classified as a containment species, primitive enough to be ignored, yet dangerous enough to be isolated from galactic society. The humans have responded with unexpected force. Vorn continued, projecting images of the battle above Earth. Our observers report technology that exceeds our assessment of their capabilities. In Earth orbit, Admiral Marcus Reed stood on the bridge of the EDF Defiant, humanity's first true space battleship. Blood trickled from a cut on his forehead as the ship shuddered under enemy fire. Status report, Reed demanded, gripping the command rail as another blast rocked the vessel. Shields at 43%. Admiral, his tactical officer replied. But the Dracon vessels are pulling back. They didn't expect us to have particle beam technology. Reed's expression hardened. For decades, Earth had known about the alien civilizations watching them. While officially appearing primitive, human governments had secretly united to prepare defenses against the day aliens might come as conquerors rather than friends. That day had arrived without warning. The purple-scaled Dracon ships had appeared suddenly, opening fire on Earth's orbital stations before demanding immediate surrender. Launch counter-offensive pattern Delta, Reed ordered, and get me the United Earth government on secure channel. Across the solar system, hidden human military installations activated. Ships emerged from concealed bases on Mars, Europa, and within the asteroid belt. The Dracon attackers suddenly found themselves surrounded. Back in the council chamber, a reptilian delegate rose to speak. Why should we care about this conflict? The humans are contained, and the Dracon have always been aggressive. Vorn's forehands moved rapidly over his console. Because of this, he said, projecting a new image. It showed a Dracon warship being sliced in half by an energy weapon of unknown design. Impossible, whispered a delegate near the front. Their technological development was at least a century away from such weapons. On Earth, Colonel Anna Hayes strode through the underground command center beneath the Rocky Mountains. Screens display battles raging across the solar system. Despite being outnumbered, Earth's forces were holding their own. The Dracon are retreating from Mars orbit, an officer reported. We've captured 3 of their vessels mostly intact. Hayes nodded. Begin immediate analysis of their technology and communications. I want to know who helped them plan this attack. The Dracon couldn't have found us without help. In deep space, a small council observation craft watched the battle unfold. Its pilot, Agent Tlem, recorded everything for the council archives. Director Vorn, Tlem transmitted. The humans are not just defending. They're pursuing the Dracon beyond their system boundaries. Vorn received this news with growing alarm. The Council had maintained Earth's quarantine for one primary reason. Psychological assessments of humans revealed a species that, once provoked to war, would not stop until victory was absolute. This Council must prepare for the possibility that we have awakened something terrible, Vorn announced gravely. The historical records show that humans do not fight merely to defend. They fight to end threats permanently. As if confirming his fears, a new transmission reached the council chamber. It was a simple message, broadcast on all frequencies in perfect galactic standard. This is Admiral Marcus Reed of Earth. The unprovoked attack on our world will not go unanswered. We are coming. The emergency meeting of the United Earth government filled the grand underground chamber beneath Geneva. 50 world leaders sat around a circular table, their faces grim as Admiral Reed's hologram flickered above the center. The Dracon forces have retreated beyond Neptune's orbit, Reed reported. We've captured 7 of their vessels and recovered their navigation data. President Wilson, an older woman with steel-gray hair, leaned forward. And what have we learned, Admiral? Everything. Reed replied, his voice hard. The Dracon didn't find us by accident. Their attack was sanctioned by certain members of the Galactic Council. The room erupted with angry voices. For decades, Earth had intercepted alien communications and quietly built defenses, all while pretending to be unaware of galactic society. Colonel Anna Hayes stepped forward, activating a holographic display showing star maps and alien worlds. The Dracon Empire spans 12 star systems, she explained. But they're part of a larger political entity called the Galactic Council, comprising over 200 species. She highlighted several worlds in red. These council members provided the Dracon with Earth's defense capabilities, as they understood them. They classified us as a containment species, too dangerous to contact, too primitive to worry about. How wrong they were, muttered the Chinese premier. Hayes nodded. We've been monitoring their communications for years. Their mistake was assuming we couldn't detect their observation posts. Now we have the means to strike back. President Wilson stood. Let's be clear about what we're proposing. Not just defense, but war against multiple alien civilizations. They attacked us first, the Russian leader countered. They must learn Earth is not to be trifled with. In the silence that followed, Hayes activated another hologram showing Earth's hidden fleet. Ships of various sizes, from small fighters to massive destroyers, floated in formation around Mars. Project Sentinel is complete, she stated. 300 warships with technology we've developed by studying alien communications and observation craft that crashed on Earth. We're ready. And this is your recommendation, Colonel? Asked President Wilson. Hayes' eyes were cold. My recommendation is total war. Strike hard and fast. Show the galaxy that attacking Earth was the worst mistake they ever made. The vote was unanimous. Ambassador Trell of the Galactic Council adjusted his environmental suit nervously as his shuttle approached Earth's orbit. The small diplomatic vessel had been granted safe passage after repeated requests for communication. We're being scanned, his pilot reported. Multiple weapon systems are tracking us. A human voice came through their communication system. Council vessel, you are cleared to dock at Orbital Platform Alpha. Deviate from your assigned path, and you will be destroyed. Trell had been chosen for this mission because his species, the Novari, had argued against Earth's quarantine classification. Still, nothing had prepared him for the cold efficiency with which humans operated. At the docking station, Trell was escorted by armed guards to a conference room where Colonel Hayes waited. Ambassador, she said without rising, you have 15 minutes to explain why Earth shouldn't consider your entire council an enemy. Trell placed a data crystal on the table. This contains proof that only certain council members supported the Dracon attack. Many of us advocate for peaceful contact with humanity. Hayes picked up the crystal. Too late for that. We've already launched our response fleet. Trell's 3 hearts seemed to stop. Where? The Dracon homeworld, their 2 primary colony worlds, and the private estates of council members who voted to support their attack. Hayes smiled thinly. Your council thought us primitive. You'll soon learn how wrong you were. On screens behind her, Trell could see Earth's fleet, hundreds of ships entering warp jumps toward different sectors of the galaxy. We've been watching you all for decades, Hayes continued, learning your technologies, your weaknesses, your fears. The beast you feared has awakened. As Trell stared in horror, Hayes added, your 15 minutes are up, Ambassador. You might want to warn your council. Earth is coming. The Dracon colony world of Vel-Torax gleamed like a purple jewel in the darkness of space. 3 ringed moons orbited the planet, each hosting defense stations that had protected this thriving colony for centuries. Governor Krell stood on his balcony overlooking the capital city, his scaled skin reflecting the light of the setting sun. Governor, urgent communication from Homeworld, his aide called from inside. Before Krell could respond, the sky lit up with brilliant flashes. The defense stations on all 3 moons simultaneously erupted in flames. What's happening? He demanded, rushing to the command center. Unknown vessels emerging from warp. The security chief reported, panic in his voice. They're not using standard jump points. On the main screen, dozens of sleek, dark ships appeared seemingly from nowhere. They moved with impossible precision, their formation perfect despite having just completed a warp jump. Impossible, whispered Krell. No species can exit warp with that level of coordination. A communication request flashed on their screens. When Krell nodded, a human face appeared, Admiral Reed. This is Earth Defense Force, Reed stated flatly. Your empire attacked our world without provocation. Now you will experience the consequences. The transmission cut. Seconds later, the first missiles struck the planetary shield. In the Galactic Council emergency chamber, representatives from dozens of species watched in horror as live feeds showed simultaneous attacks on 3 Dracon worlds. They're using tactical warp jumps inside the battle zone, gasped a technical advisor. No species has ever mastered that technique. Intelligence Director Vorn studied the footage carefully. The humans are not following standard battle protocols. They're targeting communication arrays and government facilities first, then methodically eliminating military resistance. A Dracon representative slammed his clawed fist on the table. The Council must intervene. These primitives are using technologies they shouldn't possess. Ambassador Trell, recently returned from Earth, spoke quietly. They've been watching us for decades. They only pretended to be unaware of galactic society, while studying our technologies and improving upon them. How could they improve on technologies they barely understand? Demanded the Dracon. Because, Vorn replied, humans excel at one thing above all others, warfare. Colonel Hayes stood in Earth's mobile command center aboard the battleship Vengeance, watching tactical displays of all 3 simultaneous battles. Vel-Torak's planetary shields at 18%, reported her tactical officer. Dracon fleet is in disarray. Hayes nodded. Commence Phase 2. Deploy the ground forces. Across all 3 Dracon worlds, black drop pods pierced the atmosphere. As they landed, they opened to reveal Earth's elite soldiers, men and women equipped with powered armor that made them faster and stronger than any Dracon warrior. But it wasn't just their technology that terrified the Dracon. It was their tactics. Human soldiers moved differently than any species in the galaxy. Where most civilizations fought with ordered formations and predictable patterns, humans were chaos embodied. They used cover, flanking maneuvers, and guerrilla tactics. They targeted command structures and sowed confusion. Most frightening of all, they seemed to anticipate Dracon responses. Earth's intelligence had studied Dracon military training and exploited its weaknesses. We've captured the Vel-Torak's governmental complex, came the report from Commander Ellis on the ground. Governor Krell is in custody. Hayes opened a galaxy-wide broadcast channel. Every species in the Galactic Council would see what came next. This message is from Earth to all who conspired against us, she announced as the camera showed Governor Krell being escorted to a holding cell. We have captured your colonial leadership and military command. We control your worlds. This is just the beginning. She paused, letting the threat sink in. We know which council members supported the attack on our world. Your hidden bases have already been identified. Your private estates are currently being surrounded. There is nowhere in this galaxy you can hide from Earth's justice. Across 3 star systems, Earth's flag, now redesigned with a sword through a planet, rose over conquered Dracon worlds. The message was clear. Humanity had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. The Grand Council chamber had never seen such chaos. Representatives from 200 species shouted over one another, their universal translators struggling to keep up with the flood of angry voices. Order. I demand order, shouted High Chancellor Mox, pounding his ceremonial staff on the floor. The rhythmic booming gradually quieted the room. The humans have violated every protocol of civilized warfare, bellowed the Dracon ambassador, his purple scales darkened with rage. 3 of our worlds captured in a single day. The Council must unite against this threat. Ambassador Trell of the Novari rose slowly. Perhaps the Dracon representative can explain why his empire attacked Earth without Council approval first. Murmurs spread through the chamber. A preemptive security operation, the Dracon insisted. The humans were developing dangerous technologies. Were they? Intelligence Director Vorn stepped forward, his 4 arms each holding different data tablets. Or did your empire attack because you discovered humans had detected your illegal mining operations in their asteroid belt? The chamber erupted again. Aboard the Earth flagship Vengeance, Colonel Hayes monitored the Council debate through their compromised communication network. For years, Earth had planted undetectable quantum receivers in Council facilities, giving them real-time intelligence on their enemies. "They're fractured," she observed to Admiral Reed, who joined her via hologram from the Dracon colony world Vel-Torax. 7 species are supporting the Dracon. 12 remain neutral. The rest are either silent or suggesting negotiations. Reed nodded. Perfect timing for Phase 4. Hayes pressed a button on her console. "All units, commence Operation Oracle." At the edge of Dracon space, a seemingly abandoned asteroid field suddenly came alive. What appeared to be natural formations opened to reveal massive weapon emplacements, a secret Council military installation where experimental weapons were developed, violating their own laws about weapons of mass destruction. The facility's commander received an alert about unidentified vessels approaching. Before he could react, precise strikes disabled their communication array and defensive systems. Earth's elite Special Forces team, call sign Phantom, breached the facility without firing a shot. Using stealth technology reverse-engineered from captured alien craft, they moved like ghosts through the corridors. "Facility secured," reported Commander Jackson to Hayes. "We've recovered the data cores and weapons schematics. You won't believe what they were building here." Back in the Council chamber, the debate about how to respond to the human threat continued when suddenly every screen in the room changed. The Earth military symbol appeared, followed by Colonel Hayes' face. "Galactic Council members," she began calmly, "while you debate, we act. We have just seized your secret weapons facility in the Cygnus sector." Gasps filled the room. That facility's existence was known to only the highest-ranking Council members. "How did they find it?" whispered the High Chancellor to Vorn. Hayes continued, "We've discovered evidence that 12 Council species, including the Dracon, were developing biological weapons designed specifically to target human physiology." The screens changed to show technical schematics and test results. "This violates your own Galactic Treaty, Article 17, which prohibits species-specific weapons," Hayes stated. "It seems many of you were preparing for our extinction long before we officially entered galactic society." The Dracon ambassador shouted, "This is fabricated evidence." Hayes smiled coldly. "Is it? We've already transmitted copies of these files to every member world. Your own people will see what their leaders were planning." The screens displayed a map of the galaxy with dozens of red dots pulsing across it. "These are Earth's strike forces, currently in position near critical infrastructure throughout Council space. One word from me, and your civilization returns to the pre-space age." The chamber fell completely silent. "You have 6 hours to deliver those responsible for authorizing the attack on Earth," Hayes concluded. "Otherwise, we will implement our own justice." The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Vorn turned to the High Chancellor. "I warned you years ago. Humans don't fight like other species. They don't posture or threaten without purpose. When humans go to war, they commit totally." "What have we awakened?" whispered the Chancellor. "Something the galaxy has never seen before," Vorn replied. "A species that turned warfare into an art form." The planet Nexus, home to the Galactic Council's main administrative complex, hummed with nervous activity. Ships from dozens of species crowded the orbital lanes, many representatives fleeing before Earth's 6-hour deadline expired. In the Council's inner sanctum, 7 high-ranking officials sat around a circular table, their faces illuminated by holographic displays showing Earth's forces positioned throughout the galaxy. "How did we so badly underestimate them?" asked First Minister Grohl of the Vexeri, his tentacles twitching anxiously. "We assumed technological development followed universal patterns," replied Vorn, reviewing data on human military capabilities. "But humans took unique paths. While we focused on efficient energy use, they prioritized weapons yield. Where we developed elegant solutions, they built redundant systems that survived damage." The High Chancellor stared at the tactical displays. "And their dimensional physics, far beyond our understanding," confirmed Vorn. "They've somehow mastered precision warp jumps that our scientists deemed theoretically impossible." A communication officer burst into the room. "Emperor Malk of the Dracon Empire is broadcasting to all systems." On screen appeared the imposing figure of the Dracon Emperor, his purple scales gleaming beneath ceremonial armor. "Fellow members of the galactic community," he began, "do not be fooled by human deception. They have existed in secret for decades, building weapons while pretending to be primitive. They are the threat we always feared. I call upon all civilized species to unite against this human plague before." The broadcast abruptly cut off. Seconds later, it was replaced by Admiral Reed's stern face. "The Dracon Emperor has been removed from power," Reed stated flatly. "His broadcast originated from his palace on Dracon Prime. That palace no longer exists." The council members watched in horror as camera feeds showed a smoking crater where the majestic imperial palace had stood moments before. "How?" whispered the Chancellor. "Our sensors detected no missile launch, no energy weapon discharge." Reed continued, "Earth's ultimatum remains unchanged. In 3 hours, we expect those responsible for the attack on our world to surrender themselves, to demonstrate we are not bluffing." The feed switched to show a barren moon orbiting the Dracon homeworld. "This uninhabited moon contains a Dracon military installation and mining operation," Reed explained. "Observe." A pinprick of light appeared on the moon's surface. Within seconds, fracture lines spread across the entire satellite. Before the council's eyes, the moon began to break apart, crumbling from within as if its very atomic structure was collapsing. "Our dimensional resonance disruptor affects the quantum bonds holding matter together," Reed explained calmly. This was a low-power demonstration. At full capacity, this technology could destabilize a planet's core. The council chamber fell silent as they watched chunks of the destroyed moon drift apart. "By the stars," whispered Grohl. "They've weaponized dimensional physics." High Chancellor Mox finally stood. "Open a direct channel to Earth Command. We vote to negotiate." Colonel Hayes stood on the observation deck of the Vengeance, watching the stars. After relaying the Council's message to Admiral Reed, she had a rare moment of quiet reflection. "They're ready to surrender," said a voice behind her. Commander Ellis had just returned from groundside operations on Veltorax. "Not surrender," Hayes corrected. "Negotiate. There's a difference." Ellis joined her at the viewport. "After what they planned for Earth, is negotiation wise?" Hayes turned to face him. "Our mission wasn't just revenge, Ellis. It was to secure humanity's place in the galaxy. If we simply destroy our enemies, we're no better than they believed us to be. And if they betray us again," Hayes's expression hardened, "then next time, we won't be so merciful." On her datapad, reports continued to flow in from Earth's forces throughout the galaxy. 3 more Council species had withdrawn support from the Dracon. 5 had offered Earth Alliance treaties. The balance of power was shifting rapidly. "Prepare my shuttle," Hayes ordered. "I'll lead the negotiation team personally." As she walked away, Ellis realized humanity had achieved something remarkable. Not just military victory, but the beginning of galactic respect. Earth was no longer a quarantined curiosity. It had become a power that could not be ignored. The ultimatum had worked. Now came the harder part: Reshaping a Galaxy. The Great Hall of Reconciliation on Nexus had never hosted such an unusual gathering. At one end of the massive oval table sat the remaining council leadership. Fewer than half the original members were present. Many had fled. Others had been arrested by their own governments after Earth revealed their secret dealings. At the other end sat Earth's delegation, led by Colonel Hayes. Unlike the ornate robes and decorative armor of the council representatives, the humans wore simple dark uniforms with minimal insignia. Their unadorned appearance somehow made them more intimidating. "This is not a peace negotiation," Hayes began, her voice echoing through the hall. "This is a reckoning." High Chancellor Mox leaned forward. "Colonel, surely we can find common ground." "Common ground," Hayes interrupted, activating a holographic display. "Like the ground where your scientists tested biological weapons designed to wipe out humanity." The display showed secret laboratories, test subjects, and detailed plans for Earth's containment and eventual sterilization. "For 63 years, your council has observed Earth," Hayes continued. "You classified us as dangerous because we fought amongst ourselves. Yet behind closed doors, you committed atrocities that would horrify even our most hardened criminals." Intelligence Director Vorn, seated slightly apart from the other council members, nodded slowly. "She speaks truth. I have tried to warn this council for decades about our hypocrisy." Hayes stood and walked around the table, a data crystal in her hand. "This contains records of every illegal operation conducted by council members against developing species throughout the galaxy, not just Earth." She inserted the crystal into the central console. Immediately, thousands of files appeared in the air around them, each documenting violations of the Council's own most sacred laws. Species manipulation on Torvin II. Hayes read. Forced genetic regression of the Mantari civilization. Resource theft from 17 pre-spacefaring worlds. The list goes on. "These are sensitive security matters," protested a representative from the Helix Confederation. "Where did you get these files?" Admiral Reed, who had remained silent until now, spoke up. "We've had access to your networks for years. Did you really think those observation posts near Earth were only sending data one way?" The council members looked at each other in growing horror as the implications sank in. "Earth has copied your technology, improved it, and used it to monitor you," Reed continued. "Everything you know, we know. Everything you've hidden, we found." Hayes returned to her seat. "Now, here are our terms. They are non-negotiable." A new document appeared before each council member. "First, those directly responsible for the attack on Earth will surrender for trial under Earth justice. Second, the Council will be reformed with new laws preventing interference with developing civilizations. Third, all illegal technologies developed by Council members will be destroyed." Chancellor Mox scanned the document, his expression grim. "And if we refuse?" In answer, Hayes activated another display showing Earth's fleet positions throughout Council space. Key government facilities, military installations, and power centers on dozens of worlds were highlighted, all within range of immediate strikes. "We've already proven what we can do," Hayes said quietly. "Don't make us demonstrate it again." As the council members conferred urgently among themselves, Vorn approached the human delegation. "For what it's worth," he said to Hayes, "I argued against Earth's classification as a threat. I believed we should have welcomed humanity as equals." Hayes studied him. "Then why didn't you stop the attack?" "Politics," Vorn replied simply. "The same reason your own world governments sometimes make poor decisions, but perhaps there is hope yet." He gestured to where several younger council members were already nodding in agreement with Earth's terms. "The old order is falling," Vorn observed. "What replaces it will depend partly on how Earth wields its new power." Hayes looked around the room at the mix of fear, resentment, and, from some, grudging respect on alien faces. "We didn't want this power," she said. "We would have preferred peaceful first contact. But now that we have the galaxy's attention, we intend to use it wisely." Outside the hall, The first transports arrived carrying former council officials who had fled. They were being returned by their own governments, ready to face justice for their crimes. The reckoning had begun. 1 year after the Earth-Dracon conflict, the gleaming spires of New Harmony City rose from the neutral planet Concordia. The newly constructed Galactic Assembly headquarters stood at its center, its architecture blending designs from 100 worlds including Earth. Admiral Reed, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, stood on a balcony overlooking the Grand Assembly Hall where representatives from over 200 species gathered. The mood was markedly different from the fear and tension that had dominated the old council chambers. "Hard to believe how much has changed in a year," said Colonel Hayes, joining him at the railing. Her uniform now bore the insignia of Earth Defense's Strategic Command. Reed nodded. From quarantined species to galactic peacekeepers, history moves quickly sometimes. Below them, the Assembly was voting on the final provisions of the Galactic Charter of Rights, a document that would guarantee protection for all developing civilizations and establish clear rules for first contact protocols. The final vote stands at 193 in favor, 7 opposed, announced the Assembly Speaker, a tall being from the Novari species. The charter is ratified and takes immediate effect. Applause echoed through the chamber. "Not everyone is happy about the new order," Hayes observed, nodding toward a small group of representatives who remained seated, their expressions grim. "Change never pleases everyone," Reed replied. "But the evidence we presented against the old council leadership was irrefutable. Even their own people demanded justice." The trials of the former council leaders had been broadcast throughout the galaxy. The revelations of their secret campaigns against developing species had shocked even their own citizens. Many had been convicted by courts on their own homeworlds, refusing Earth's offer to handle the prosecutions. On the main floor, the next speaker approached the podium. Dr. James Miller, Earth's leading physicist. The chamber quieted as he activated a holographic display. "Today, I am authorized to share Earth's dimensional resonance technology, not as a weapon, but as a revolutionary power source," Miller announced. "When properly configured, the same principles that could destabilize a moon can provide clean energy to entire planets." The display showed schematics for power stations that could tap into the dimensional fabric of space itself. Earth had decided that sharing beneficial technology would build more goodwill than hoarding it. "The humans continue to surprise us," said a voice beside Hayes. It was Vorn, now serving as the Assembly's intelligence coordinator. "Where we expected continued militarism, you offer cooperation." Hayes smiled slightly. "Earth remembers what it's like to be vulnerable. We don't wish to rule the galaxy, only to ensure no species suffers what we nearly did." Throughout the past year, Earth had systematically shared medical, agricultural, and environmental technologies with dozens of worlds. Planets that had once feared humans now sought their advice and assistance. Earth's protector status had been earned not just through strength, but through generosity. In orbit above Concordia, the Joint Galactic Peace Force conducted training exercises. Ships from 30 species, including former enemies, now trained together under a unified command structure that Earth had helped design but deliberately chose not to dominate. As the assembly session concluded, Vorn accompanied Hayes and Reed to a private meeting room where a final report awaited their review. "The last remnants of the Dracon military hardliners have surrendered on Outpost Krell," Vorn informed them. "The galaxy is, for the first time in 10,000 years, at peace." Reed looked out the window at the bustling city below. "Peace is always temporary, Vorn, but perhaps this time it will last longer." "It will," Hayes said with conviction, "because we've built it on truth and justice, not secrets and fear." Vorn nodded thoughtfully. The Council's greatest mistake wasn't underestimating human technology or military prowess. It was failing to recognize that, given the chance, humans would choose to be builders rather than destroyers. As the three walked together toward the diplomatic reception, children from a dozen species played in the gardens outside the assembly. Among them were the first human children to grow up knowing they were part of a vast galactic community. The galaxy had feared Earth's revenge. Instead, they had received Earth's wisdom. And in the process, humanity had found its true place among the stars, not as conquerors, but as guardians of a more just cosmic order.